There are a few finer sights in football than when a team is left with no option but to stick an outfield player in goal. It's only in the rare and beautiful moments that we see a left winger donning the goalie gloves that we truly appreciate how difficult it is to be at number one. Just as many goalkeepers look deeply uncomfortable when venturing outside of their goal, most outfield players look completely unnatural between the sticks. Over the years, even some all-time greats have tried their hand at keeping the ball out of the back of the net, particularly in the era before the advent of substitutions, when an injury to a goalkeeper left a team with little option but to throw an outfield player in at the deep end. This 7 isn't based on anything, they're just a random 7 of my choice, ordered chronologically from earliest to the most recent examples. Here are 7 outfield players who have played in goal. Eddie Hapgood. Few outfield players have been given a shot in goal, but even fewer have done it more than once. Eddie Hapgood is one of those few who has done the latter, famously donning the gloves in both 1933 and in 1935. Those of you who have read my book will be familiar with Hapgood, who is among the finest fullbacks England have ever produced. Signed by Arsenal in 1927, Hapgood stayed with the Gunners until his career was cut short by World War II. Capped 30 times by England, Hapgood twice stepped in for Arsenal goalkeeper Frank Moss. Bizarrely, in the second of those 2 instances in 1935, Moss went off due to a shoulder injury, but later returned as a left winger and scored against Everton. Pele. The greatest player of his generation and among the greatest of all time, Marcelo Lippi said of Pele that he was a footballer with no imperfections. To some extent, that is correct, since it seemed there was nothing the Brazilian couldn't do at times. It's a little known fact that the world's only 3-time World Cup winner often liked to go in goal during training sessions and exhibition games, and he did so once in an actual official fixture in January 1964. When Brazilian legend Gilmar was sent off for Santos against Grêmio, Pele replaced him in goal for the rest of the Campeonato Brasileiro Serie A semi-final game. Pele had already scored a hat-trick in the game and he kept a clean sheet to ensure a 4-3 win. Talk about a complete performance. Bobby Moore. Pele was the greatest forward of the 1960s, and Bobby Moore, it could be argued, was the greatest defender. The duo both tried their hand between the sticks, with Moore doing so 8 years later than Pele. His goalkeeping debut came in January 1972, also in a semi-final, this time in the League Cup semi-final, between West Ham and Stoke City. Moore was bitterly unfortunate having stepped in for the injured Bobby Ferguson as he saved a penalty by Stoke's Mike Bernard, only for the midfielder to put away the resulting rebound. Stoke won the game and reached the League Cup final, where they won their only piece of silverware with a 2-1 win against Chelsea. Phil Jagielka. As with Pele, Phil Jagielka was an outfield player who really fancied himself in goal. For the record, as with Pele, Phil Jagielka is a series of words I never thought I would say. Anyhow, Jagielka is one of few outfield players to actually look comfortable between the sticks. Neil Warnock's faith in Jagielka's goalkeeping abilities was such that he rarely named a substitute on his bench at Sheffield United, and his confidence was justified back in September 2006. When regular number 1 and professional fat man Paddy Kenny got injured against Arsenal, Jagielka donned his shirt and kept a clean sheet, pulling off a decent save to deny Robin van Persie as the Blades won 1-0. That was one of 4 occasions in which the centre-back deputised between the sticks. Dean Windass. Hull-born Hull City legend Dean Windass famously scored the goal which fired his hometown club into the Premier League for the first time, but that's not what he's best remembered for by Oldham Athletic fans. In the 2008-09 season, having failed to get much of an opportunity in the Premier League, despite his role in getting the club there, Dino was allowed to join Oldham on a half-season loan from Hull City. Of his 11 appearances at Boundary Park, the most famous one came against Leicester City, where the veteran centre-forward stepped in for Greg Fleming following a sending off. Windass kept a clean sheet as Matty Fright missed a penalty, and he was subsequently named as the goalkeeper in the League One Team of the Week. Harry Kane. Harry Kane and Pele both appearing in a single video reminds me of the time when 3 or 4 people were arguing in the comments section on one of my videos about who was a better player between Kane and Pele, before all agreeing that it was Kane because Pele is in his 70s. You've got to love the YouTube comments section. Anyhow, Kane followed in Pele's footsteps in 2014 when he too went in goal during a game in which he'd already scored a hat-trick. The match in question was a Europa League tie against Astras Tripoli, and it was a good job Kane only had to replace the dismissed Hugo Lloris on 87 minutes. Kane conceded a woeful goal from a free kick, which was hit straight at him with no real venom. The England captain is undoubtedly better at scoring goals than keeping them out, and it would be fair to say Pele was the better number 1, perhaps even at 79. Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker rounds off this 7 which, as stated, was picked with no real criteria, and I could have mentioned the likes of Dani Alves, Glenn Hoddle and Vinnie Jones, but Walker is the most recent selection to make the cut. The 29-year-old made his goalkeeping debut earlier this season in a Champions League group stage tie against Atalanta. Number 1 Edison had been withdrawn through injury at half-time, meanwhile Claudio Bravo was dismissed in the 81st minute. Walker kept a clean sheet during his 9 minutes plus stoppage time debut as Pep Guardiola's side drew 1-1 away at the Serie A club. That's all for today's 7, thank you for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video and make sure you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.